And it's taking a strong, like I said, it's like taking a look at yourself in the mirror and asking yourself if indeed this is something that you want, or is this something you want for you? Is this something that you want, I mean, for your soul, or is it something that you want for your ego?
Roll me Mac.
What's the furthest that you've gone for love? Looking back at it, on everything, what the furthest I've gone for love, I would say, is enough to degrade myself, right? And by that, I mean that put all my value into someone else, just to have it. You know what I'm saying? Which was unfair to that individual, regardless of how I believe that individual treated me in the situation. Because obviously we're still, we're not together to this day. But it went as far as, I would say, taking them hits, like literally taking the verbal abuse, taking being criticized about your family, being whatever it was, you know what I mean? Like just whatever it took to feel wanted, desired, essentially loved. I was willing to be something I wasn't. And it cost me. It cost me a lot. More importantly, it just cost me myself, Like it truly cost me myself looking back at it. I was not able to do the things that I love to do. You know what I mean? Just to please this individual and their insecurities. As far as like the value that they believed believing they were more important than everyone else. And it happened on multiple occasions. The furthest going for love is like, puppy dog. Like if you remember the scene in Boomerang where Eddie's character, him and Robin Givens just has sex, and he's like, "You gonna call me, right?" And you're sitting there waiting on a phone to ring. You know what I mean? And just consistently waiting there, and the phone doesn't ring, and it was just like, all right, well, I gotta prove my love. I gotta prove myself to this individual, and then I'll get her TV shit, the TV programming, the movie programming that they do, the blue pill programming that they give us as to how relationships work. One, it comes off creepy as shit when it's unwanted by that female. And two, it's like, where's the value for yourself? And it's literally like the furthest going for love is actually not loving oneself, is what I would say, is the furthest I've gone. So now I do my best to try to go from a healthy standpoint. You know what I'm saying? Like you don't have to prove love to anybody. You just love. That's it, right? And it's all about asking yourself, is this something that's even for me? You know what I mean? Like, is this individual for me? Do they raise my vibration or do they lower it? Do they, like when they come up, you know what I'm saying? Do I feel the need to be embraced, or do I feel the need to fight or run away, like run for the hills, like stand clear of this thing? You know what I mean? And that's something that I think that a lot of us have to consider how do you feel when the individual's name comes up, when the individual pops up in your phone, or you see them in a picture, whatever it is. And I had to look at a lot of things, and it's like trying to grow from there. Why did I give that person so much of my attention? Why did I give that person so much of my value, if you will? And when they didn't do what I wanted them to do, being upset with them for being who they were. I mean, you know, obviously, yeah, they were being who they were, but they didn't measure up to my imagination of them. I think about like the distance, figuratively, that I went for trying to have love, right? And I was doing it in, like, I meant well, but I believe that it was being done in a toxic form, whether to myself or whether it was to that woman, you know, just to show that I was going to be there for them. And one rule that I've learned throughout my life, especially like in the last 5, now 6 years, you can't negotiate genuine desire. Either she wants you or she doesn't. It's going through hoop shit. It's for the birds. It's for the fucking birds. You know what I'm saying? And once I grasped that, when I started to recognize who wanted to show that genuine burning desire to me versus the ones that didn't, remove myself from that. You know what I mean? But I mean, from like answering the question, the furthest I've gone, like I said, the furthest I've gone is just putting myself all the way out there, bearing my soul, to the degree of writing poetry, which I'm not against now, but like writing poetry, showing up when you know what I'm saying? Like when you're trying to run away and I'm trying to stop you from running away from your destiny, you know, movie shit. And being there in a position and attracting really the same type of personality traits, just in different form, which is all rooted in what we saw to be familiar in childhood. You know what I'm saying? And like the emotionally unavailable. And that's the furthest I've gone for love. I put forth the effort you believe valued you, however they didn't know how to. You know what I mean? And that's a tough pill to swallow when you're able to recognize that you're doing things, you're doing affectionate things, but this individual is self-sabotaging, possibly self-sabotaging. I won't. Unconscious assumption is what it is, and then like you're doing all these things, and it seems like it's going nowhere, right, for you, and keeping in mind now, looking back. I mean, back then it was the world revolved around me, and like if they didn't do what I wanted to do, there was something wrong with them. You know what I mean? And it wasn't anything wrong with me per se, which is neither right or wrong. It's just where we were in our lives. But I did a lot of things like for women that was some out of character, I'll say. A lot of it was not valuing myself. So like I say, what's the furthest I've gone for love is really not loving myself. To that degree, I would just do whatever it took to make her happy. That's what I was conditioned to believe. That's how you get a relationship. Fuck how you feel. What are we gonna do to make this motherfucker happy? You know what I'm saying? And not even deciding if you even like her. You know what I'm saying? If you even like this, I believe you wanted, like looking back, I'm looking at Rome, you know, younger me. I'm looking at younger Rome. And did you really want them for them, or did you want them for your ego, right? trying to fight these childhood wars. You know what I'm saying? Fulfill these childhood desires and not taking into account whether this person was necessarily beneficial for you. And that's a tough thing to accept about yourself, right? And I had to look at it, it's like, do you find yourself caught up chasing childhood, dreams, childhood desires, and projecting that into the women that you're seeking? And it's taking a strong, like I said, it's like taking a look at yourself in the mirror and asking yourself if indeed this is something that you want, or is this something you want for you? Is this something that you want, for your soul, or is it something that you want for your ego? And you know what I'm saying? Like, I look back at it, and again, I see these individuals now, and I wonder, like, and it's nothing against them, but I don't believe that I felt like I could not live without you. I couldn't breathe without you. You know what I'm saying? Like, there was a part of me that loved you more. I never took the time to love me. You know what I mean? I was more so focused on showing that I was lovable. And that's where I believe, like, the childhood desire comes in. So you ask me, like, what's the furthest I've gone for love? Yeah, the furthest I've gone for love is truly not loving myself. Like, to prove that, I would go through hoops. I would go through all kinds of things just to show that I was here for you, and clearly was, because I wasn't brought up to focus on my needs, if you will. It's about what I can do for this individual, but not realizing where my value was in myself. So, things you learn as you get older, looking back and doing things from I would say a more healthier standpoint, and being mindful of setting healthy boundaries with yourself mentally, man, because it's not old habits die hard, and it's so groomed into you that you very well might even fall back into it. So it's like being very mindful of those feelings that you're having. Is that you, or is it your inner child that's trying to be validated again? And I believe, like, once I get an understanding of that, things will definitely move more promising, But yeah, again, I'd say the furthest I've gone for love from a figurative standpoint is not loving myself. What do you struggle with the most in leadership? I struggle with the most in leadership is managing the inner child and what the inner child wanted so bad, because what's going to require in leadership is not focusing on being a people pleaser, like making everyone happy, putting people's needs before yours. I mean, don't get me wrong, there's still a part of leadership where you have to put the people in your tribe, you cover them, the one that you cover and protect, you have to put that before you. At the same time, it's knowing that to have almost like a healthy balance, if you will. But the people pleasing, remembering to take care of you, because it's easy, like, it's fulfilling for me to do things for others. The issue is when I do so many things that it gets to a toxic degree and you feel that you're being taken advantage of. You know what I mean? So in that leadership, it's like, all right, well, I have to find that balance between ensuring I'm cared for mentally, and then like what I'm able to do for others in that sense. And then I would say also in leadership, it's not as recognizing that nothing anyone does is about you, which is something, obviously I speak on that quite frequently, and that's just a constant reminder because of the childhood grooming of like taking things so personal and wanting to defend yourself, you know what I'm saying, so bad to be seen, heard, and loved, you know what I mean, survival mode, if you will. And just leadership is getting, it's like when learning to deal with when things don't go as intended. That's another part of leadership that is kind of tough, and I would say sometimes combative personalities. That's another part of it. Because again, that people pleasing, and it's like it's almost like a reminder of like your childhood. Anybody with a stern voice, you're trying to appease them to make it go away. That fear comes out, but it's understanding your size too, and what you bring, and what that means as far as leadership goes, because not everybody's equipped to be led, and when that happens, it can be quite challenging of being around said personalities that don't not necessarily don't want to be led, but just have never seen it before. You know what I'm saying? Especially like that of a man in our society today. You know what I mean? Like commonly, our women are more to the front line than us men sometimes. So when you take that pride in being a leader, it can come with its fair share of backlash, if you will, and personalities that want to challenge you, which is not necessarily a non-beneficial thing, but when it's unnecessary conflict, man, it's draining. It's truly draining to do that, especially when there's other things that have to get done, more pressing issues that have to be taken care of. But like in leadership, in getting everybody all on the same page, essentially trying to instruct to get done is another thing, because most people aren't going to do it if they don't see any benefit in it. So expecting someone to go along with your vision or what you're trying to do without benefit to them, you're not going to get the same effort as if they had a benefit. You know what I mean? And to me, that just makes sense about that. You know what I'm saying? Like, don't anticipate your friends or coworkers or whatever to be a part of like the bake sale for your kids' school or the business that you're trying to do when they don't see any benefit for it. Now, granted, you have some people that will support you just because, you know what I'm saying? Oh, it's you. Okay, bam, do this. And that's just their personality. But a lot of times it's like, all right, well, what am I getting out of this shit? So, and that's business, that's just a business mindset. What am I going to get out of this deal? So so those parts right there of struggling with leadership is figuring out what's going to be like, like how do I get them persuaded enough to actually want to go along with said mission. And it's like the struggle in leadership a lot of times is imposter syndrome. You know what I mean? In the sense of like, I don't necessarily feel like I don't believe it's me, especially when you know how you started or where you came from, and to see where you are and the impact that you have is, sometimes it can be overwhelming. A lot of times it can be very, very overwhelming. And learning to see that impact is really taking like I said, detaching yourself, taking a step back to kind of look at the situation from outside yourself and seeing what your impact is doing and what you can do with that. As a judgment, tell a lot about a person by what they do with power. And that's what, I try to keep in mind on a day-to-day basis. So, leadership struggles is dealing with, your own letdown, like when goals are not met, sometimes, and not beating yourself up. And understanding that you're not attached to the mistake. You're not attached to the failure. You're not attached to the criticism, for that matter. You ask yourself, okay, what can I do? What can I take from this situation? How can I benefit from this going forward and becoming a better person for it? Because everything happens for you. It doesn't happen to you. It happens for you. So when your ego gets in the way, it clouds your judgment, it clouds your mind, and the ego is the part of you that wants to defend yourself, like constantly. And that's the wounded inner child. If you come from a situation where you never felt heard, seen, or loved, you're going to fight to the death of it, because that's what the ego does. It feels, I'm going to do this to get this, and then you're gonna respect me, type thing. But when you operate from the soul, and remember to operate from the soul just is. And and that's all part of leadership too. And it's like learning, being able to learn from others, be humble, and sit with yourself and figure out what can be taken from this experience moving forward. So few things in leadership that you struggle with. Commonly, it's most like from your ego, and not beating yourself up is one thing. That perfectionism and wanting to be, like the best at your craft, or being raised on conditional love and feeling like you have to be perfect and all that shit. It all plays a part in that. And I'm sure, a lot of us that were, we had parents, or, older cousins or whatever, that was really hard on us. They brought out the best in us, but it was, those old wounds can kind of resurface when you come up short and you use the word against you, as they say not to do in the first agreement. Don't use be impeccable with your word, and don't use the word against you. But I mean, that just shows how human one can be. And then you have to be able to laugh at yourself. That's how you kill the ego. And, when you have ego deaths, be able to laugh at yourself. You know what I'm saying? Because you are not your ego. You are not your mistakes. You're not your failures. You're not anything you want to, your mind, your ego tries to attach itself to. The thoughts that come through, just observe, don't absorb. And that's it's tough. That's tough when you're just constantly trying to fight, right? For those of us in leadership. But nevertheless, those are the struggles that I tend to find myself in when it comes to leadership. My favorite workout, I believe my favorite workout, honestly, is the pool. Being immersed in water. And it's dual. One, you're working your body out, and two, you're washing away any negative energy once you enter the pool. And there's no phone, no nothing. It's just me and the workout for 30 to 60 minutes, whatever. Most of the time lately it's been 30 minutes, but since getting piercings and tattoos, I've had to refrain from being in the fucking water, but I miss it. I do miss it. But my favorite workout for sure is definitely swimming, and like challenging yourself each time. My big thing when I'm in the water is trying to see how far I can go underwater without coming up. And I've made some good distance. I've like, depending on the location, that one gym here where I'm able to swim from end to end underwater. And then this, what I was saying, like another gym that I go to swim is like I make about 80%. And I want to say that they're the same length, which is so, I think it's a mental thing. You know what I mean? It's like being so used to the spot. But yeah, being able to swim is definitely, like I say, my favorite workout. And then also getting the attires to swim, like the swimming like boxer briefs. Yeah, they like to be able to wear those instead of trunks. I believe I move a little bit faster in the water, but it's a great workout. I like what it does for me mentally, and it's like a break from lifting weights. You know what I'm saying? And because 4 days a week, that third day is a break between, commonly a break between my bicep back day and then the chest day. So that swimming is like that break there. But it's I enjoy it. I definitely enjoy it. So I'd say my favorite workout is swimming. How do you react when you're upset? It truly depends. I have no middle ground. I'm either completely shut down or I'm a loose fucking cannon. And again, trauma based. But yeah, it can be like those wounds that you didn't realize were there can come out, and you can act like a bitch sometimes, and that's okay. You just gotta laugh at yourself, right? And understand that you're not the scenario that you're in, but it's your body responding to something from the past, right? You're fighting the previous war. You know what I mean? And learning to not fight the previous wars is one thing that I try to keep in mind as I go through my day. Because I certainly was an individual that liked to fix what I deem to be something that I could have done better in the past. But I say that, yeah, reacting when I'm upset is sometimes the inability to control one's emotions, especially when it comes to like a debate for me, depending on what the topic is. And if it's me and I'm feeling like attacked and shit, and my inner child is present, hands down, you know what I mean? And especially like if it's family or you mirror personalities, toxic traits from my family, yeah, I'm on your ass. And it's nothing personal, you know what I mean? It's I believe it's just that fighter in you. It's that inner child trying to be seen, heard, loved, and again, detaching, being able to detach and look at yourself like, man, you know what I mean? You had no reason to defend yourself. Nothing. You had nothing to defend yourself for or lose your cool. You know what I mean? Anything that angers you controls you. So why give that control? Why give that permission to allow someone to upset you? That's what it is, like being able to manage your emotions. Like having that emotional intelligence. But you have human moments. You're gonna have your human moments, especially as a man. Speaking for men, and it's like being able to get things back in, things back into perspective so that you can move forward and be a force, essentially be a force, and get back on the horse. Not rhyming on purpose, but yeah, be a force and get back on the horse. And it works. It works out. It's just learning to let go and realizing don't focus on dead time, things that have already happened. Focus on the alive time. You know what I mean? Like what's present, what's in the present moment. The present moment brings forth so much joy, and the pain is in the past. There's no, you know what I'm saying? Like joy is all in the present moment, and it's funny how that works, and seeing yourself outside of yourself and then having to laugh at yourself because of how you responded when you take yourself too seriously. And I'm able to recognize that within myself, like recently having conversations with family, you know what I'm saying? Friends that you've chosen as family, and being able to recognize the wounds that come out when that inner child is on deck, and it's not always what you want to hear, you know what I mean? But knowing that you love them, you know what I'm saying? And that you're so used to being in survival mode, and it's just, you know what I'm saying, it's just you. Sometimes it's tough to see where an individual is coming from. And that's when that inner child is ready to, it's like a dog that's a loose dog that's not, it's on its own all the time. And you catch it in a corner, it's going to want to defend itself. It's fear. Behind anger is fear all day. I'm going to be the first to admit that. And it's like recognizing your fears. Like, are you living in love or are you living in fear? And, a lot of times from a lot of things tend to live in fear. But do the best I can to manage said emotion, if you will. But there comes a time where things line up. The volcano builds, and then sometimes when you get pushed, Mount St. Rome, comes out. And it's one of those things where, I look at them and enjoying, obviously like the conversation, debate that, that we were having. And we all got into it. There was nothing serious, but at the same time, it brought up some serious things inside all of us, for that matter. And grateful for those moments when the universe is trying to show you something, because again, everything is happening for you. It's not happening to you, but it's killing that ego. You know what I'm saying? Being able to suppress that ego. At the same time, sticking to your boundaries and beliefs too. But don't be so foolish enough that you're not able to assess the situation and ask yourself, is it the truth or is it nonsense? Now, in the moment, again, that wounded inner child, especially from not being heard, comes out. You're going to fight. You're going to want to fight. And that's the thing. It's like now you're listening to reply instead of listening to understanding. And when you can sit back, look at yourself and like, all right, okay, that was the ego driving the car. You know what I mean? The ego is driving the car more than the soul. Don't get me wrong, still having healthy boundaries and strong, and having your beliefs. But when you can see that your ego is taking over, and being able to, again, just to listen, if you can listen without any response, no emotions, you won't be affected by that. That's what Thich Nhat Hanh talks about in the How to Fight book. And sometimes you forget the instructions, you forget the teachings, especially when triggered. I know that for me. Like whenever whenever I get triggered with, again, whatever, anything that remotely reminds me of something like I've dealt with in the family, All that teaching shit go out the window, and I'm ready. You know what I'm saying? Like, I'm ready, and a lot of times it don't even be about that. It's just that's just you can call it PTSD, whatever you want to call it, but you know, it's just that inner child wanting to be seen. You know what I'm saying? Wanting to be enough. You are enough. You know what I'm saying? Like, all of us, we're enough, man. It's just those voices that are inside our heads that we didn't put there. Because you would never tell somebody else they weren't enough. You know what I mean? But whatever reason, those voices that we've kept and the recordings in our minds, you're not enough. You're not good enough for this. You're not good enough for that. And that is the voice of the ego. You know, the ego is forever trying to, one, keep you down if you allow it, but it can also push you forward. So it's like finding that balance between how you're interpreting the ego. You can look at it from a negative standpoint. You look at it from a positive standpoint. Half the time, most of the time, almost all the time, we look at it from a negative standpoint because our brains are designed to fix problems. You know what I'm saying? Find fault and all of that. That's, you know, the concept of the brain is to fix things. So when you recognize, like, and especially if you were a perfectionist and you recognize error, you want to rectify the situation as soon as possible, as much as possible. But reacting when upset, right? And I know exactly where it all comes from in hindsight, looking back. But in those moments, that inner child is you know, so if we're prepared to fight, and my inner child reacts in two ways: loose cannon or shut down. You know, and I do my damnness on a daily basis to monitor the fucks I give. You know what I'm saying? Protect my peace, and I'd say for the most part, I do fairly well from my own standpoint. But there are moments, for sure, you know, between work, between unnecessary conflict. That's what gets to me is like unnecessary conflict. If there's no rhyme or reason to it, and that's something that I find to be frustrated. But it's like remembering what my mentor Jim Rohn talks about is like turning frustration into fascination and wanting to learn why something happens versus just being upset because you're hurting yourself. And truth be told, I love myself too much to be angry, and that's something you have to remember. But again, that inner child, I battle with that fucker on a day-to-day basis, taking care of little Rome. Little Rome is he went through some shit just as much as little whatever your fucking name is watching this went through, and it's like protecting that individual and knowing and reminding them that they're safe. Talking to yourself in a calm voice and not taking a moment to pause before responding. I say in hindsight, looking back at a lot of things, taking the time to pause before responding to the whatever energy that was sent your way. And you learn from those. You learn from those incidents, and be grateful. Be grateful for them happening. Amor fati, accept things as they are, not what you want them to be, and use that to be better going forward. But one of two ways: loose cannon or shut down. And that's again, both of those are all rooted in childhood and has nothing to do with anybody but myself now. You know what I mean? Those individuals are not around. Well, not all the time, but it's still holding yourself accountable for your own actions, your own emotions. You know what I mean? And that's really what it is. Your action towards me is about you. My reaction towards you is about me. You know what I mean? And that's something that I teach myself on a day-to-day basis. It's moving forward in a calm space, right? And removing yourself as well. You know what I mean? Like knowing when like certain again, certain energy. When you recognize certain energy and it's like you don't like the way you feel around that, man, you got to remove yourself and do what's, essentially do what's best for you. When you start doing what's best for you, you're going to piss off a lot of people. So, much appreciation to everyone going after what their whatever their goals are, and sending them positive and healing energy. But yeah, that's all I got on this shit. So I'm out. Good night, kids.